Hey everyone, and welcome to another Sasquatch Theory podcast. On this episode, we have Ben, and he is from the suburbs of Chicago. He had a very chilling experience whenever he was trail biking in the Ozarks of Arkansas one day, and he also had a very terrifying encounter in the suburbs of Chicago. I hear a lot of reports from these areas, and it's not too far-fetched. I totally believe him, and yeah, let's dive straight into it. If you guys enjoy Sasquatch Theory, please like the podcast and subscribe to the channel. And if you have a Bigfoot encounter that you would like to share with me here on Sasquatch Theory, please contact me sometime at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. All right, with all that being said, let's dive straight into Ben's Bigfoot encounters here on Sasquatch Theory. All right, Ben, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today?
Doing good.
Good to hear. Ben, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. If you would, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and your Bigfoot encounters and experiences from the very beginning, please.
So, my name's Ben. I'm from Chicago area. I'm a avid extreme sport enthusiast, like dirt bikes, mountain bikes, snowboarding, all sorts of stuff like that. I love nature, love camping, spend quite a bit of time out in the woods and whatnot, between going to events and camping out there or just going on family vacations with the family. Yeah, I'm an outdoorsman, but not to the extent of some people where they're living off the land, out hunting for their food and whatnot. You know, I'm from the Chicago suburbs, so all my encounters but one have been out of the populated areas.
Okay. I appreciate you for sharing that, Ben. And if you would, dive into your first experience or encounter and describe everything in full detail.
Okay. Well, the first encounter was in Arkansas. It was on Mount Nebo, around May or June, I would say, of 2023. A little bit of background on the whole situation. I was working in Arkansas, staying at a friend's house. Um, I was working night shift, 6/12s, working an outage, and it was a lot of work, and it was tough. But after the outage was done, I figured I'd stay for a couple more days, enjoy the beautiful nature of Arkansas. Something that I'm not accustomed to, being from Illinois. You know, the Ozarks are beautiful. The mountains out there are truly an untouched wilderness. You know, prime location for things to be out in the wild. You know, and weird stuff to go on. But I was done with my assignment. Wanted to get back on the regular circadian rhythm of going to bed at night and whatnot, because I was waking up at night to go to work. So I stayed up the whole next day, and later in the afternoon, I'm like, you know what? Got all my stuff in line. I'm done hanging out. I'm gonna go do something fun. I'm gonna go enjoy the wilderness and go for a mountain bike ride. Packed up my bike, did a little bit of maintenance to it, and got on the mountain. Drove out there. It's about 30 minutes away from where I was staying, the town of Dover, which, by the way, there's a phenomenon that no one can really put a definite explanation on, of something that goes on in Dover, which is about 20 minutes from where had my encounter. There's something called the Dover Lights. You could look it up. It's mysterious lights that come up at nighttime, or like at when the sun's going down. You know, just mysterious lights in the mountain area in the valley can be seen, and no one can find a source to them. They're not. There's no one down there. There's nothing that can produce a light like that. When people go down to the area where they saw it, that was something interesting that was brought up to me while I was working out there. Well, anyway, I get to the mountain. Um, I noticed that my bike, I did maintenance at the house. My bike needed a little bit more maintenance done. Got that done, took longer than expected, and I was kind of weary of if I should go out anymore at that point because the sun was starting to go down, but it wasn't to the point where, if I would have done a lap around the trail that's on the mountain, I would have been back just after sunset. Well, get on my bike, I'm pedaling down the trail, having a great time, enjoying the nature, taking some stops to just take it all in. Mount Nebo has some very beautiful outlooks that you could see the Arkansas River, and just the surrounding area of the mountains. So I was just taking it all in, enjoying the evening sky, the golden hour, and moving on, moving on. I get to this point. Um, I had gotten a flat tire there 2 times before. On my days off, I would go out there and try to mountain bike, but I got flat tires in the same spot. Well, this time I was prepared, had a tube, had a pump. Um, I get a flat in the same exact spot again. It was my tube got pinched when I jumped off this rock, landed on something sharp, pinched the tube. Oh well, this time I'm prepared to fix it. Well, I'm sitting there. Sun's starting to go down, so it's getting a little bit dark in the woods. I'm sitting there, trying to get my bike back going, and having a real hard time taking the tire off. I'm trying to use sticks, can't get it off by my hands at all. Okay, got to figure something out. And maybe 10 minutes go by of me struggling with my tire. I get this weird sense that something is wrong. Not like something's wrong with my bike. It's just like the situation I'm in, something feels a little bit off. That was like the first, you know, part of this encounter, I guess you could say. I've thought about it many times and have ran through it all in my head, and just at first I put it off as something else, but I'll get into it. Um, after that, after I start feeling a little fishy, like the situation's weird, I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna call my parents, tell them I love them, give them a call, and they're like, "Hey, what's up? Like, are you good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm just out here in the woods, sun's going down, and fixing my tire. That's all. I just wanted to say I love you guys." And like, all right, well, take care of that. Get on with it. So that's when I got off the phone and I had an epiphany. I'm like, wait, I have a fork and a spoon in my backpack, which I could use to pry off the tire and change the tube. So I made that happen. Got back on the trail, and I was using my flashlight that was attached to my handlebars. Um, my bike was flipped over upside down, so the flashlight was pointing up a little bit, but it was on the ground. Um, as soon as I get the tire on and I'm pumping it up, take a quick second to just like look around, and I notice a lot of movement around me. What I mean by that is there's a lot of ants, scorpions, all sorts of bugs. I saw beetles. I saw a snake come by me. Um, and that in my head was like, okay, it's getting to that point in the evening where all the critters come out. And late, later on, I encountered some sort of critter. But moving on, I'm rolling down the trail after I got my bike going, and my bike or my flashlight, it was brand new. Just put new batteries in it. Like it was a perfectly fine flashlight. As soon as I get going again, I'm moving down the trail. At this point, after the whole tire ordeal, it's pretty much blackout. Can't see anything without my flashlight. I'm moving down the trail, and it is treacherous. It's very bumpy, very loose, very tight, and it's on a hillside. Not the safest to be riding at night, especially not knowing what I'm getting myself into. But I kept pushing on for whatever reason. I was just confident in my flashlight and my skills to control the situation. Well, I'm moving along and get up to this hill. It's too steep to ride my bike up, so I'm just pushing the bike up to it. Another detail I'd like to add is the whole time that I'm out here in the woods, I had music playing through my phone. So I couldn't really hear what's going on around me or whatnot, besides just like bugs and whatnot while I was changing the tire. But I start climbing up this hill, and my flashlight starts doing some weird stuff. Like at first, I was like, "Oh, maybe the battery's, not good or something." I just took it out. I turned the light off, took it out, checked it out. Felt it, saw if there was anything wrong with it, put it back in. Works fine again, but now it's flickering still, like inconsistently. There'd be a flicker here, flicker there. Like, okay, nothing out of the ordinary, I guess. Just a battery powered flashlight. Something, you know, everything's made in China nowadays. Maybe it's just manufacturer defect. Um, I'm getting up to the top of the hill and starting to think like, okay, what's my plan here? What am I gonna do now? Am I gonna see how the trail looks, keep on going? Am I gonna go back on the trail I came from? That's what's going through my head. And I started going um, up the hill. I crest the top and I see that there's like an opening kind of. It's all a deep forest, so it's very thick, lots of brush. But there's like this opening, and um, I could see that there's like what looks like a road going through the opening. Not like a full blown road, just like a two tire tracks type road, just like a mountain fire road, I guess. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pull my phone out, see where I'm at. I use an app called Strava, and it tracks your ride, shows your speed, your elevation gain, where you went. Um, so I'm looking at Strava to see if there's a trail, or to see where the trail goes. And I pull my phone out. I pause the song, because I figured I'd pause the song, pull my phone out, and I'm looking at my phone trying to figure out where I'm at. And I just noticed it's eerily quiet. I don't hear and mind you, I'm still feeling nervous for whatever reason. I race motocross and do all these extreme things, push the limits of what most people would call their comfort zone. And I'm not a stranger to being out in the woods at night, through camping or just being on a mountain bike ride and getting caught out in the woods, you know, after dark. It's something I've done regularly. I get up here, still feeling nervous. I hear that it's like really quiet, no bugs, nothing. Even though maybe like 15 minutes prior, I was surrounded by bugs and the whole forest. You could hear the cicadas, crickets, everything around you. But in this area, for some reason, it was like just silent, nothing. And I'm like, huh, that's weird. No, look, I'm still looking at my phone. I didn't think to look around. It's like pitch black, besides where my flashlight's pointed. And I start to hear something in the distance. It sounds like something walking through the leaves. You're just like trotting through, just um, and that's when I'm like, I heard it, and it sounds like it's if I were to estimate, probably 100 to 200 yards away, like far, but not far enough for me to be totally fine with it. I'm like, I don't know what's out here. It could be anything. It could be a boar, which are known in Arkansas. It could be a mountain lion. Could be a bear potentially. There's black bear out there. Um, but I think to turn my handlebars in that direction to see what's over there, because that's where my headlights mounted to the handlebars. I turn the bars about 90 degrees, and I hear what I heard these footsteps at first. I turned the bars, and when I turned the bars, I don't even get my flashlight all the way to 90 degrees, I should say. And uh, I'm sorry, I'm like just rethinking the situation or reliving it, and it's just I'm like I'm shivering. It's scared me, but I hear something that sounds like it's way closer to me now, like it's charging through the trees, like it's coming at me, and it sounds like it's way closer, like a good 50 to 60 feet away, I'd say maybe, and it made a sound that I couldn't explain it. After I thought about it later, I couldn't explain what it really was. At first, I thought, after the situation, I looked up the local wildlife sounds. A boar would charge at you, but it won't make the sounds that this creature made. Um, a deer, it's why would a deer charge at you? Um, I would understand, if I was like encroaching on its territory, but still, deer aren't really like that. Um, Mountain lion, if I would have had an encounter with a mountain lion, I wouldn't have heard it. It would have just got me. And even if it was a boar, the distance that it was, the speed that they can uh, charge at, I feel like it would have got me as well. Well, the sound that I heard, um, it wasn't per se like a wasn't something that sounded like it came from an animal. It sounded like it came from like a voice. Like it sounded like the best thing I could compare it to was I don't know if you've heard of this, but like the Mongolian throat singers, they got that. I can't make it with my voice, but they get to a really really low octave with their voice. Um, I hear it making this rumble, and it like was coming up. It was like, and it turned into like a, like a more like a roar then, and I really couldn't figure out what else could make that sound. I still am curious. I have no idea what could make that sound. Um, I didn't have a visual of what this was because I was out in the woods by myself with no protection, and the only this was like a true fight or flight situation. I've had those fight or flight situations in the past as a kid. Ding dong ditching or playing tag or something, but never in this intense of a situation where it's truly life or death potentially. I don't know what was out there. I don't know if it was trying to get me or if it was trying to chase me off, but I only got a glimpse at my phone before I decided to look. Um, and I saw that this was the fire road that goes around the mountain. Um, and in a split second, from the moment I like turn the handlebars to the moment I hear this thing charging at me and making this crazy sound at me, uh, it's probably been like 2 to 3 seconds. I heard the noise, turned my bars over, I heard it something charging at me, and as soon as I heard that, I was just like, okay, what do I do? Do I get back on the trail I was on? Do I go up this fire road? And I just thought about it. I'm like, okay, this flashlight was acting up. I'm not going back on the trail. Then this is all like split second decision making. Not going back on the trail. I'm gonna go up the fire road. Now, like I mentioned, I was doing some maintenance to my bike. Um, the derailleur, it's the part that changes the gears on the back on the cassette. It's the part that hangs down from the frame and the chain goes through it. Well, that part was slightly out of alignment, and the gears would skip on certain gears, so the bike was finicky. It wasn't like a bike that you get on and just pedal your heart out, pedal as hard as you can. You had to be careful, or else the gears would skip. Well, the only gear that didn't skip was the highest gear. So I'm pedaling, throw it up in the highest gear, and um, I'm going up this hill. It's rocky. I'm up the fire road. I'm just praying that I can get away from whatever is chasing me, and praying that my chain doesn't snap, because I've never cranked a bicycle with my legs as hard as I did in this situation. I pedaled as fast as I could. I didn't even want to look back, but I didn't hear anything per se being right there behind me. I just felt the need to get out of there, and I got out of there. I'm going up the hill. I get towards the top, still going pretty fast, and I come up to like a fork in the road, and one way has a sign. There's three paths. One way has a sign on the left, the right way has a sign, and there's no sign in the middle. And the middle path looks a little bit more decrepit, a little bit more um, less maintained. Um, and I trusted my gut. Like, I got up to there. I'm still sprinting, going as hard as I can. Um, just my gut told me go straight, even though there's no sign. It looks like the sketchier route. Go straight, fly down that way. And that's when my flashlight completely went out. That freaked me the heck out, because I'm going fast and I can't see. And I'm going down a mountain trail where the consequences of crashing are very high, especially because I'm being chased. But I start going down, and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta hit the brakes so I can maneuver this better. Then I'm like, no, I gotta keep pedaling. I pedal a little bit, and I hit a rock, almost went over the bars. It was bad. And after that, like, I almost went over the bars. The light started flickering back in. Like, it was still very dim, kind of hard to see what's in front of me, but it started flickering back in. And it all of a sudden, like, I'm going downhill. I'm going pretty quick. The light all of a sudden came back, and now it's back to normal. And um, pedaling down this path, uh, now I'm realizing, like, okay, I took the right path, because every time I'd gotten a flat, I had to hike up to where that fork in the road was actually. I didn't realize it in the moment when my flashlight was flickering, and I'm scared as heck running out of there. Um, I just didn't really know where I was at, but after I got down a bit, I understood that I was on the right path to get back to my truck. I was about, looking at the trail, uh, Strava. I was looking at Strava. I was about 4 miles out, so pretty deep out in the wilderness, I'd say. The side of the mountain that I was on was attached to a wilderness area that is about, I don't know, if you made a big circle, it'd probably be like a 30-mile circle of not much out there. Maybe like a couple pass through, 10 house towns, but that's about it. Not very developed area, and plenty of resources for wildlife. Big forests, lots of water. Uh, Mount Nebo actually has a bunch of natural springs. There's actually houses on top of Mount Nebo, and like campground and whatnot. But the part that I was on was, I'd say, if you took a straight line up, it would be a good mile and a half, maybe 2 miles, to where the top of the mountain is, the peak where all the houses and the campground are. But I got out of there, got back to my truck. I'm sitting in my truck. I just threw my bike down and got in my truck and locked the doors, and I'm just looking around, looking behind me. Like, is there anything chasing me? Is there anything stalking me? Is there anything on the edge of the wood line? And I'm just scared out of my pants. I'm like, I don't know. This is really scary. I don't know why I didn't just get right out of there, but um, I sat there for a minute, and I'm like, okay, I think the coast is clear. I'm done here, so I'm gonna throw my bike in the truck and get out of here. I was standing there, after I got my bike in the truck, and I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I'm just gonna hang out here for a bit. Like, I don't know what was telling me to do that, but there's this overlook near where I was parked at, and I decided to go walk over to that, and it's on the it's on a steep slope, so the overlook it's like a bridge built out on the steep slope, and it overhangs, and the only way on is to take that bridge. Well, I'm sitting at the end of it, just uh, recalling my encounter. I was like messaging some friends or calling some friends, like, "Yo, I just got chased by something in the woods. Um, I don't know what the heck it was, but it was tearing up the woods. Like how thick the brush was. If you try to and you try to go straight through it, you would just get stopped. It was very thick, and unless you knew like exactly how to maneuver through it, you wouldn't get through it very quick. Um, and I also thought like, okay, well, if it was a boar, that was what I initially was thinking it was. It can get through the brush, near the ground where there's not so many leaves. Um, that was I just always theorized it was a boar. But later on, I think a couple days later, I went back there during the daytime this time, and about the area, or actually the area where I was stopped at, I'm just like looking around, and um, the direction that I heard whatever charging at me, I noticed it was a little bit less thick than the surrounding area. And I did notice also, I don't know, I didn't know at the time, I wasn't, looking into Sasquatch or their behaviors or, any type of details that would indicate that they're in the area or anything. Um, but I did notice there was a lot of broken branches, like they're broken up kind of high up in the tree, along the trail, much higher than what like a human could reach. The first time I saw it, I like thought like, oh, wonder if someone tried to climb up to that branch and they grabbed it and it snapped or something. But that was something I noticed in that general vicinity of where I was chased out from. Um, yeah, and I was always just chalking it up to a boar, not being able to put the voice or noise that I heard to anything else. I'm like, okay, the only thing that would charge at me in the woods like that, a territorial predator like a boar. Well, I don't know if maybe I came up on something else and it chased me. Um, that in the moment I was like, it's a boar. After looking into Bigfoot some more, I started to put together that okay, maybe this is something else because I had an explanation in my head for what charged at me. Didn't have an explanation for what kind of sound it made, and I especially did not have a explanation for the other strange things like why was my flashlight flickering? Why was that happening? Why was I nervous? I'm not a nervous person. People could say that, but in a situation, the nerves come out. Well, I'm very familiar with being in uncomfortable situations. I'm constantly on the edge, doing extreme things, and it's just you do that enough, your brain builds up a tolerance to extreme situations, I suppose. Well, there was no extreme situation, and I was nervous. Honestly, I think about the last time I was nervous. It was my first dirt bike race when I was 11 years old. That's honestly the last time I could think of actually being nervous, having anxiety about something. Try to live, you know, with good vibes and always see positives. But in this situation, I was very nervous. Also, cannot explain why was it silent in that area. I was literally just in a different area where I saw critters all around me. I saw ants literally walking all over the place. I saw a few scorpions. After I got going again, I almost ran over a snake that was crossing the trail. It was, it was just strange that it was completely silent in that area. Um, but yeah, that pretty much wraps up my first encounter with something. No visual of what I encountered, but the energy that I felt, um, definitely, that situation is engraved in my mind. The energy that I felt is very um it was a very dark feeling energy. Like it uh my mom is a she considers herself a little bit of a witch, you know. She uh is very spiritually aware, very just knows a lot of certain things that your average person doesn't know. And throughout my life she's taught me a lot of things about connecting to energies and spirits and whatnot. I believe actually when I was uh, around 12 or 13 years old, I was visited by my grandfather, my mom's father, and it was in a dream, but had a very vivid dream, probably one of the most vivid I've ever remembered. And I'm being spoken to by someone. I had met my grandfather, but only when I was a small child. Um, I don't have any memory of him, but I'm talking to this old man, and it sounds like a very familiar, welcoming voice or something. I'm not seeing anything, but I'm hearing this voice talking to me. And at first, I'm Lithuanian actually. At first, it it was speaking Lithuanian to me, and it was saying like, "Hello, don't be alarmed. I'm visiting you, um, and I want you to." It pretty much the message that I got out of it was, look ahead and keep your head up. A very positive message. And to that point in my life, I was kind of a troubled child. I was always in the principal's office, always up to something. And after that, I don't know what it was, but something in me snapped, and I became more disciplined. I started I mean, I stopped getting into fights and doing dumb stuff, and that really stuck with me. But I just wanted to make it aware that my mother has given me a lot of insight on spiritual um, knowledge and energies, and how to channel energies, how to deal with energies. Yeah, I mean, that's what I got from that situation the first time. It was felt like a very dark energy in the area.
Yeah, that's terrifying to know that you're out there in the woods all alone and there's some unknown creature stalking you. Did you feel like this thing was trying to get you?
Absolutely. The nothing nothing runs up to in pitch black darkness, in the woods, in the wilderness, with hugs and kisses. In the moment, I didn't think exactly what kind of creature, animal it was. I was just like, okay, I'm in danger. Get the heck out of here. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And you mentioned the throat singing. Is that the vocalization that the creature was making whenever it was stalking you?
So yes, so um, literally everything that happened from when I got up to the top of the hill and pulled my phone out to when I'm running was less than 10 seconds. So I get to the top of the hill, pull my phone out, turn the music off, open up the Strava, looking for the trail map, and that's when I noticed it was eerily quiet. Less than a second later, after I noticed it was eerily quiet, I'm still looking at my phone, and I hear footsteps in the distance. I get curious, put my phone or I'm like holding my phone in my hand. But I turn my handlebars where the flashlight's mounted in the direction of the footsteps, and then I'm getting charged at and hearing this wild voice, noise, whatever.
Yeah, so it almost sounds like a deep guttural growl.
Yes, yes, exactly. And that's why I was so confused about the situation. I didn't know if I was hearing a wild animal or if it was a person or what it was. But if it was a person, doubt it. Uh, they had the deepest voice I've ever heard, and it still does not explain the other weird things like the silence in the woods and my flashlight, and the nervousness I was feeling. Like I said, I'm not a nervous person.
Yeah, that is strange. I mean, sometimes technology fails, but do you think maybe this creature had something to do with your electronics failing?
Yeah, I mean, potentially. Either if it was the creature or if it was some spirit out in the woods. They say spirits come out at night, and it was the brink of night. It was at the point where I got back on the trail. I'd call it dark out. If you looked in the horizon, if you could see through the trees, you look at the horizon, the sky is at that point where it's turning from orange. It's already turned from orange to like a darker blue, and it's going to black. Like it's just after sunset, or I'd say it's a good bit after sunset, and the sky is going black.
Yeah. Yeah, I would be scared if I was out there alone and something was chasing me. I mean, I've seen these creatures before and I go and research at nighttime, but when you're out there with them and you can't figure out what it is, there's just this gut feeling that tells you get out.
Absolutely, yeah. That's pretty much what I got from it. Um, as soon as I started feeling nervous, that's where I was starting to think, what do I do? Do I quit trying to fix my bike and just hike out of here like I have in the past? Do I continue down the trail? I was not sure what I should do, but I was like, "Oh, I don't know why I'm feeling this way, but I'm just gonna keep on treading on." And I came here for a reason. Wanna blow off some steam after working and, you know, get back in tune with myself. Um, but yeah, um,
Yeah. The Ozarks is a beautiful place, but when the sun goes down, it's a completely different story.
yeah, yeah. And the night before this, so this is the day after I was laid off from the job. The assignment was done, so we all got laid off and got sent home. Uh, it, I would like to add that I was pretty tired at this point. I was trying to break my circadian rhythm, and I knew I'd be super tired by the time I get back from the mountain bike ride and want to go to bed. And this time it would be at the time where I'd be getting ready for work or at work at this point. And yeah, so I was pretty tired, but um, nonetheless, still totally aware of everything. And if I'm riding mountain bikes, pretty aware. Um, yeah, the night before we got laid off, where we were night shift and night shift. Although day shift, night shift, we all shared the same responsibilities. Day shift would take care of the bigger jobs that our department would do. So night shift, we would do a lot more of like the in between work, and whatnot. At this point, the during day shift of that day, they they finished up. Everything was done, and pretty much all we were doing was just cleaning up the office and hanging out, playing cards, waiting for our layoff papers. That night, we were all just sharing stories, and a lot of the local Arkansas men were they were sharing stories about like the Dover Lights. Um, what else? There's another guy who owns property in the mountains. and he had cattle go missing, and then he would be hunting later in the year, and he would see, his cattle's bones deep in the woods, but not in one spot. He would see like a pile here, a pile there. That was strange. And what really stuck with me, I think maybe this brought up some nerves in me. Um, but still, I don't think this is the cause of the nerves. Um, One of the guys, my supervisor, he told me, like, yeah, when people go missing out here in Arkansas in the wilderness, they're typically never found. That really stuck with me. And after learning more about Sasquatch and whatnot, um, yeah, I mean, if you're in their territory, they're not going to be happy about it. Um, they'll probably want to rip your head off and eat you or something. They may not be looking at you as a meal, but if you're like anyone, if you go on someone's property and they don't like it, they're gonna say something about it, or they're gonna chase you off or something. But
Yeah, absolutely. And I get the feeling that this isn't your only experience. What else happened after this?
yeah, so like I said, I chalked this up to a boar, uh, an avoided boar attack, and I just went on with my life. Didn't really think about this day much more. I think when I was on another assignment down in Louisiana, I was talking to some locals there, and we were just sharing stories, and this story came up. But other than that, I didn't even think about it for the longest time. More recently, um, I was on a bicycle ride here in Illinois with some friends, and we just got some food. We rode a couple towns away, and on some paths across, or some paths that run along the river and the canal in the area. Um, I won't tell you what town I'm from, but I'll tell you the area that I saw. What I saw was so we're riding. I'd also like to add the area that I'm from is an urban area. It's suburbs, but um, it's a bunch of towns with a lot of population, and there's not much forest around here, um, except around my town and a couple of neighboring towns. But this area along the rivers, it's a lowland, so it's pretty marshy. I'm assuming civil engineering has created that waterland even more, because I've done research of the area in the past. It wasn't as wet, but nowadays it's pretty marshy. Um, Lots of uninhabited area, um, but only about 1 mile long from one bluff to the other bluff of this river valley. Um, on the top of the bluffs is where the civilization starts back up, or the development start back up. Well, anyway, the one development that I can think of that is in this valley, in between the canal and the river, probably the only one. It's a historical site. Um, it's called Isle Cache. I don't know the exact history about it, but it's an area between the two rivers, and it's an island, or it's an area between where the river forks out. It's an island. So there's bridges across that go onto this island and beyond it, and then over the canal and the river. Um, we're riding over we're riding over the first bridge, and we just ate. So we're trying to just chill out for a minute. We already pedaled now at this point, probably another 2 miles. We decided to stop by the river here, and everyone's either hydrating or just on their phones. And my friend's like, "Hey, look, there's some deer in the river." And my one buddy, he's not paying attention. He's like messing with his bike or something. I'm like, "Huh, yeah, what is that?" Look out in the river. Um, I see something probably about a football field away from me in the river, in the actual river. It's not like a very big river. In parts, it's deeper, but for the most part, from where it starts to where it flows into the Illinois River, it's about 4 feet deep, um, or a little bit deeper in areas. But I'm looking out in the river, and I see two creatures standing, but they're not standing like on all fours. It to me it looks like they're standing on their hind legs, and they're like it's like a human standing in the water washing their hands. That's what it would look like essentially. And there's a lot of fish in the river. Could have been something trying to get some fish, maybe just digging through the grasses in the river, searching for something. I don't know, but I look out there. I'm like trying to get a close look, and I just see that if this is a deer, the position that it is in is very unnatural for a deer. It'd be like a deer, its back being at a 45-degree angle, like its hind legs are in the water, but its back's like up, and it'd be like the front legs are standing on top of the water or something. So that just looks fishy to me, even though it's a little distance away. It looks fishy, and my friend's like, "What do you think that is?" And like this one friend, I had told him the story of my encounter in Arkansas, and he thinks I'm crazy. Whatever, you know, you can say someone's crazy until you're in their shoes in that situation, you know. Um, but we're looking out there, and I'm like, "Is that a Sasquatch?" Like I said it like a little bit louder than I said it now. I'm like, "Is that a Sasquatch?" And these things look over. Like I see like a head turn. It's so far away. I didn't see like specific details of like whether or not it's got big eyes or big nose, big forehead or whatever. But it did not look like a snout of an animal. Like it looked just like a flat, round, like a face at a distance. And these things are still like standing up on their hind legs with their front arms up, but then I'm like, I just yell like kind of in a joking way, but at the same time, like I don't know what I'm looking at, and I'm just like, that's a Sasquatch. I yelled that, and these things book it. They get out of there quick. And the way that they got out of there, um, this is where I really started to see their bodies in more definition. Um, like certain details about them. When they started to run, they got on all fours, and the only thing I could compare it to is like almost like a gorilla, charging when it's like on all fours, like that, mixed with like a hop, like a hop and a skip, or like as if it was like a gorilla jumping through the water. And I'm like not believing my eyes at what I'm seeing, because I noticed these things are pretty dang big. Like they're definitely up there in height, because like I said, the river is 4 foot tall in most areas. And after this situation, I went back there a couple days later, and I waded through there, and it was like up to my belly button almost in that area where I saw what I saw. So moving on, these two things take like from where they're at to the riverbank, like the edge of the river, where the grasses start. Uh, it was a good 100 feet, I'd say. These things probably took like 4 or 5 gallop skip things, but the thing is they're using their front arms, so that was really confusing to me. I'm like, why are they using their front arms? Um, or at the time I was like, okay, maybe that's deer, but here's what really made me think like, okay, that's definitely not deer. They got across the river really fast. I noticed they were very like a dark brown and one solid color. I noticed the legs bent, not like a deer's would, they bend the other way. It bent like a human's leg would bend. Bends at the knee, at the hip, and at the ankle. I didn't see the ankles, but well, I mean that's all just speculation, the ankle part. But I saw the knee at the bend and the hip that looked human-like. Um, and as soon as they hit the river bank, this is where my friend was like, "Dude, you're crazy. Those were just deer. It looked like they stood up because they were jumping up the riverbank." Well, these two things stood up as soon as they touched the riverbank and like went into the tall grasses. Like when I went back there to scope the area out, I was walking through these tall grasses and they were as tall as me, if not taller, in some places, like especially where they ran in. Um, so in the moment, I was thinking like, okay, yeah, they probably jumped up a riverbank. Well, I went through there and noticed that towards the edge of the water, it it gets deeper. It gets to about 4 feet in depth, a good 20 feet out. But otherwise, it's like a smooth incline up to the grass, and then the grass is just barely higher than the water level. Like on the edge, it's actually very wet. Like you step on it, and it's gonna like smush down, like your foot's gonna sink into muck. Um, so when these two things got out of the water, I saw their front limbs hit the grass, and basically it looked like they just threw themselves up onto two legs and took a step, and they were gone, like gone into the tall grasses, into the trees. And the first thing and the second thing, they both did this. And my friend's like saying like, "Oh, dude, you're just thinking that because they jumped up a riverbank." It's no coincidence. Like it stood up on two legs. I saw the step that it took after it threw itself up onto two legs. No deer is gonna make a movement like that. And I was also thinking like any other possible animals it could be. The only thing somewhat close that could stand up on two legs and take a step like that, a bear. Well, newsflash: there's no bears in Chicago besides the zoo. I don't think that was a bear. I truly believe that I saw two Sasquatches. And another thing to note, um, there's plenty of deer here in Illinois, especially like northern Illinois part that I'm from. Um, Romeoville, like the area that I was in, plenty of deer. There's that whole area around the river. I think it's a preserve actually. So there's plenty of area for that type of wildlife to live there. And um, deer live in the small little forests around our neighborhoods as well. Uh, I'll see them walking through the streets sometimes. They're not scared of us. They may they may run away from us when you like yell at them, but they're not gonna run away the moment that they see you at a distance. Like when they're in their own element and you're on a bridge, let's say, like how I was. Deer's not gonna run away, especially when you're like yelling one phrase at it from about a football field away. It's not gonna be. It's not gonna react to that. Yeah, what I saw, I cannot explain to this day other than it was Sasquatch. Another funny thing I would like to add though, this is totally, I didn't tell my mother about any of this stuff, the first encounter or the second encounter. And literally the next day, she's not into any of this stuff either, like the whole Bigfoot thing, like um after I've asked her about it after I had the second encounter, and she was like, yeah, who knows? But she doesn't look into it or anything. Well, she gets something, whether if it's like on on Google, just like a random ad pops up, or if it was on Facebook, just some random thing. She gets a post that's like an article about two people in the area that saw a dog-like creature that stood up on two legs cross the road. This was about 20 miles away from uh, where I was at, and it was in a town that goes along the canal that runs along the river, the I&M Canal. I think it goes from Chicago all the way to the Mississippi. But that's another thing that in that time frame I'd noticed. And my mom, she does not look into that stuff or anything. So it's interesting that that came up for her and she saw that. I had not mentioned anything to her or anything. So just seems strange to me. Like something's going on. There's something out here.
Yeah, absolutely. About how far away were these creatures from you?
Um, However, just like a guesstimate from, I reckon it was about a football field.
Okay. So that's not too far away. Do you think they were fishing in the river?
To me, that's what it looked like. Maybe they were just digging through the weeds and looking for food if it was a Sasquatch. Like my friend also was like, "Dude, that was just deer. You're freaking out." And we're riding up the next bridge. This is a bigger bridge and you got more of a vantage point from it. And down under you could see that there's deer. Like there was a couple of deer, and I'm like, look, that's a deer. You see the pointy head? That's a deer. You see how the fur is tan and it kind of changes in color. It gets a little darker towards the bottom. That's a deer. What we saw was pure brown, had much thicker limbs, didn't have a pointy head like that. That was something else.
Yeah. And they heard you whenever you said Sasquatch, like they looked over at you?
Like immediately. And what blew my mind was like I didn't say it very loud. The distance away that they were, they it could have been a coincidence that they looked over and took off, but they took off as soon as I yelled, "That's a Sasquatch." What does that mean? And also I was thinking maybe, let's say it's some Sasquatch, maybe they were trying to be incognito about it and that they're like out in civilization, I guess you could say. Um, not that they're in the area that's super civilized, but it's amongst civilization. Maybe they were trying to disguise themselves as a four-legged animal and run across on all fours in the river where I could see them perfectly. And as soon as they hit the tall grass, they stood up. That's what I got from that.
Yeah. And that's not too far out there. I've gotten several reports in the past from the Chicago area. And what river did you say this was?
This is the Des Plaines River. It runs through like Willow Springs, Lamont, Romeoville, Joliet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. And how tall would you estimate these creatures to be?
Okay, so like I said, I waded through the river, and at the point where they were at, like I could tell the river has a lot of bends and the land around it has a lot of points and whatnot in this area. I could tell exactly what like little stick out from the island in the middle of the river that these creatures went to. And um walking across there, the water was up to my belly button in the area that they were standing. And when they were in that water, it was just barely above their knees. Like it's up to my belly button and it was just barely above their knees. That's what was like, whoa. When I was walking through that stuff, it was just a deer and my mind was playing tricks on me or something. I didn't find any shallow spots. I walked around a couple hundred feet one way, a couple hundred feet another way. I walked through the whole area. treaded through all that tall grass in the water, and yeah, I didn't find any shallower areas. It was all to the depth that I don't think a deer would even think to cross that river right there. You know, so
Yeah.
if I were to guess the height, 7, 8 foot tall, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it just had really long legs or something, and that's how it looked. But um, yeah, its head was over the tall grass when it stood up, and like I was saying, the grass was taller than me, so about 7 foot tall.
Yeah. Did you ever go over to the area where these creatures took off into the woods, and did you find any tracks or anything like that?
Yeah, so I went back there a couple days later because it was eating me up inside. I literally was at work trying to focus on what I had to do and just wait until I can get off and get to the bottom of things, you know. I put on the waders and like a windbreaker type jacket so that I wouldn't get any ticks or any like burrs on me. Walked across the river right there to the island. So there's multiple islands there. The actual Isle Lakash is on a bigger section. This little spot is it, I don't know. I'd probably say it's like a 3 acre island, 4 acres maybe. But on Isle Lakash, there's one path that goes to the end of that island. But no one, I guarantee you, no one goes beyond that path because it's marshy and it's really tall grass and um you know, everyone's scared of ticks, so no one wants to go in that area. And when I got to the island, um, the the island that no, especially is uninhabited. You know, I know people go onto it because you have to cross a river to get there. There's no bridge to it. I was walking around and I noticed. Now I'm not a hunter, so I don't know exactly how deer make their beds and whatnot, or other animals, but I did see a couple large circles where the grass was matted down. Um, like maybe a deer wouldn't make like a 6 foot wide circle. You know what I mean? Does that sound right to you? A deer wouldn't make a 6 foot wide circle in the grass to for its home, right?
Yeah, typically it wouldn't. It would be a smaller circle. The only way it would be that big is if they bedded in the same area, and like when the wind will shift, they'll kind of get up and reposition themselves. Maybe a deer did that, but
Yeah,
I don't know. It sounds like it was something much bigger.
yeah. Because I noticed that, and as I was walking around the island, the sun was going down. Like I was over there for a couple hours, and I didn't want to stay there too long, just in case anything was coming back. Although it would have been cool to see potentially, but I didn't want to be caught up in anything. And also, it was to the point where I can't see anymore, and my flashlight wasn't doing much. My phone flashlight. I was like, okay, time to go. Cross back across the river. Got back on my bicycle and rode off. But um, yeah, that was an uncomfortable ride carrying or riding in waivers, but on that island, I noticed the big circles in the grass, and really, I didn't notice like when you go through the woods and you see what looks like a trail, but you could tell it's not like a human made trail. It's just like the animal trails. Goes like under the trees and whatnot. Um, I noticed a few of those, and one of them you could tell that the sticks were like spread out, like something had pushed the sticks out along the top of the bushes. Um, the first path that I took, I had to do that to make it through without, either I'm bent over completely, like I'm completely crouched over walking through there, or I have to be bent over and push these sticks out. Well, I noticed that there was another area where it looked like a path, and the sticks were pushed out much higher up, or they just were pushed out, whereas the other spots they were not pushed out. So maybe that was like a more common area for a Sasquatch to walk through or something, potentially. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And have you ever looked for reports online from this particular spot?
Yeah, I've looked for stuff along the Des Plaines River Valley, and I didn't find anything. But I did notice that there's a few reportings in Plano, Illinois, and I actually have a friend that lives out there in Plano, um, out in the sticks. Um, he hasn't noticed anything, but he I was over there and there were some friends over. My other friend's girlfriend claims to have seen something in that area across the road, right in front of their car. Like they had to slam the brakes, and he's like, "What the heck?" That was just like a really tall, furry guy. Like she didn't even like think of Bigfoot. She just thought like really tall, furry guy, and that's all she got out of it. And I'm like, "Yo, like Bigfoot, right?" She's like, "Yeah, I guess so." Well, being out in that area, near Plano, there's a few mountain bike trails, or this area along, I believe, the Fox River. Um, there's an area called Sawiki. It's called Sawiki, and there's very thick forest. I don't know why, but like you look to the side of the trail, and it's all the trees are all like tangled up in each other, and there's a bunch of bushes. Whoever built those trails, they put in a lot of work to make them. And I was out there. It was a very interesting situation. I was riding with my two friends. We were riding three different spots in the area, and this was our final spot. Um, my one buddy, he was cramping up. He was tired. Before we even merged onto this other trail, um, he's like, "Hey guys, like I'm pretty worn out. I might be heading back to the truck soon, or like trying to find my way out." And I'm like, "Come on, man, we just got to hit this one trail, and then we've hit everything here." And yeah, long story short, there's three of us, me and one friend, not the one that's cramping up. Um, we're going up this trail, and we had to pedal up this steep hill, and at the top, basically just that you can make it to the top. You'd basically need a dirt bike to get up to the top of that. You know, it was not possible to pedal up it, but that's just how the trail went, and we want to get up there. We went up there, and we're going a little bit. We hear my buddy, um, or no, we're like, "Oh, where's our buddy? Where's Mike?" Um, we just stop and we're like listening. I noticed it was pretty dang quiet. Like it was really quiet. We're out in the woods, and there's no wind, no birds, no noises, no nothing. And like that made me like snap back into whatever nervousness I felt when I was in Arkansas, out at night. Um at this point it was the sun was going down, but it wasn't down yet, but it was beyond the tree line. When you're in the thicker part of the woods, it was a little bit darker, and we're like, okay, let's go back and see where our buddy's at. And we call out to him before we went back. We call out to him. We're like, yo Mike, where you at? We didn't hear anything. We start going back, and we're like kind of worried. We're like, dang, did he get hurt or something? Did he fall off the trail? Like, what's going on here? And we're yelling for him. We hear something like a and then we didn't hear anything for a while. And in this area the service wasn't the best, so like I didn't even think to call him. But um because I was like, he was just right here. He was just like 10 feet behind us. He's gone. um so long story short, my one buddy, I'm just standing there just in case he went the way that we came from or something. My one buddy rides down the other trail that went the other direction. This is like a T. We we came off the one that we had to climb up the big hill, and my buddy goes down one way, and I'm just standing at that T, just in case my other buddy went the other way, and he's gonna realize he's going the wrong way and come back towards us. So I'm standing there, and I'm just like thinking, like, man, like it's pretty quiet. And as soon as I think that in my head, I hear what sounds like a stick snapping in the thick woods, like beyond me. It didn't sound like it was super close, but it sounded like something just took like I don't know, like a 1 inch thick stick and snapped it on its knee, or like someone did, that's what it sounded like. Um, that was interesting. And this is in the same area where someone else had reported seeing something. So, um, yeah, that's all I got on that. Actually, let me add that we found our buddy. He got lost. He's like, "Oh, I think I've been down this trail." And he started backtracking, and he's like, "I have no idea where I'm at." Like he said he just kept on riding, and he felt like, "All right, soon enough I'm going to hit where I got off." Like apparently he tried to go up the hill and he couldn't make it, and he's like really cramping up, so he just went back, and he's like, "Screw this, I'm going back to the truck." Well, he couldn't find that T in the trail. He kept going back and forth, and he couldn't find it. Um, and he's like, "I swore I rode right past it, but I didn't see it or something." Because he went back one way, which I like to add, I'm standing right there at the T. He would have seen me. He went back one way, went back the other way. He said he was like gone for 10 minutes, and he couldn't find anything, or he couldn't find us. He said it felt like it was 10 minutes, even though all this unfolded probably in like 5 minutes, maybe less. And I was thinking about when I would be telling you about my encounters, and thinking of anything else that was strange that has ever happened in my life. And I do remember as a child, maybe, I don't know, I was like 7 or 8 years old. My family was vacationing in St. Pete Beach, Florida. We were staying in a hotel, and one evening we were all out by the beach, had like a fire going. The parents are, partying, where the kids are just hanging out, causing a ruckus. And me and my buddy, we look up at the sky. We see, like, out above the ocean, we see 4 or 5. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but we see some lights all in a line in the sky. They were like big round balls of light in the sky. Um, there's I couldn't explain it, but they were just sitting there in the sky. Um, Looked like they were very slowly moving. We looked away we were staring at it at first for probably 10 minutes, and it seemed like it was in the same spot. But we looked away, we looked back, and it was like a little bit over to the left. Look away, look back. 5 minutes later, it's a little over to the left again. Um, and for like an hour and 10 minutes or so, there's just these 4 or 5 lights, uh, just sitting there in the sky. If it was if it was like 4 helicopters doing a search or something, we would have definitely heard it, because the the sound waves would have reverberated from the water. If it was planes, they probably would have got out of there quicker. You know, there was no noise, and the lights were just consistent. They weren't flashing. They weren't the sky. And you know, I have no explanation for that either. And we all saw it, like my parents and everyone. No one could tell anyone what it was, and still to this day, it's a mystery to me.
Yeah, that is strange. How many years ago was this?
Um, well, 24 now. I was like 7 or 8, so do the
Yes.
math. However long ago that was.
So way before Starlink was a thing, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is strange. What color were the lights?
So when they first appeared, they seemed to look like they were almost like an amber color, like a more reddish amber. And at a certain point, I didn't notice it, but like they changed in color. They were like this dark amber red, and then they turned into like just like a not yellow, more just like a neutral amber color. Um, but still like they didn't flash or do anything strange. Um, yeah. And also now thinking about it, I haven't seen the Dover lights, but I do believe there might be some core or some connection between the Dover lights one night in our.
It sounds like the Brown Wiseman's Peak, and you can see the lights, and right when it gets dark, and at dark time, you can see them turning on and turning off, and sometimes they'll be on for a while, or they'll flicker or move around. And yeah, from what you described, the Dover lights sound very similar. And with the Brown Mountain lights, they say that scientists still can't fully figure out what it is. Some people have said swamp gas or friction from the water on the rocks causing this phenomenon, but no one really knows. And I mean, they even have an episode on the X-Files about the Brown Mountain lights, and it's freaky. I bet there is a connection with the cryptids and possibly UFO activity when it comes to these lights.
Yeah, I can see that. And you know, there's this one show. It's honestly a pretty good show, but it's pretty vulgar. It's not for everyone. It's called The Big Les Show, or there's another one, same characters and whatnot. Sassy the Sasquatch. It's like a cartoon written or drawn in with paint. It's pretty detailed, surprisingly, but I did watch that a couple of years ago, and now after learning more about Sasquatch and hearing people's encounters and certain strange things that they would see, like the show was like showing those things, like random orbs and then Sasquatches appear, or just strange things like, well, the Sasquatch was here and then it walked behind the tree and now it's gone. Interesting stuff like that. But I didn't really know about any of those details until after learning more about Sasquatch. That's just, I don't know, just something I wanted to add.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll check it out. Okay, Ben. Well, I think that pretty well covers your experiences and your encounters, and I appreciate you for getting in contact with me and telling these experiences on the channel.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ben, you have yourself an excellent day, and if you experience anything else in the future, certainly feel free to contact me.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good day as well.
Yeah, take care, my friend. All right, Ben, thank you very much for sharing your Bigfoot encounters and experiences with me here on the channel. And I can only imagine what it would be like riding a bike at nighttime in the woods, being pursued by some type of creature. It does make me think that this was possibly Bigfoot. I mean, they are in the Ozarks, and that's what they do, especially at nighttime. You can go out to a forested area, and it seems like there's nothing out there, nothing out of the ordinary, and once the sun goes down, all of a sudden, something is trailing you in the woods. So it does make me believe that they were watching you the whole time, and I don't really know what their intentions were. It really does make me wonder about the missing 411, because a lot of people are hiking trails, and they just go missing. So this kind of adds to the speculation that Sasquatch is behind the missing people, but there's also many other factors out there, and I just think Bigfoot is one of them. And it's not too far out there that you had this Bigfoot encounter right outside of Chicago. I do get a lot of reports from that area, and for some reason, Illinois is a hot spot, and I mean, these things are all over the place, so I do believe you. But yeah, if you have a Bigfoot encounter that you would like to share with me here on the channel, please contact me sometime, and I really appreciate everyone for tuning in today. You guys take care, and be safe out there in the forest.